The higher levels of the shoulder bridge are really good for promoting single leg strength as well as dissociation of movement of the opposite leg. Needless to say, it's a high level exercise, therefore it's really important that you can do the precursor levels of the shoulder bridge well, both feet on the floor and the level 2 where you're coming up to tabletop with one leg. If you don't know those ones, make sure you have a look at the introductory tuition video for those particular movements. The beginning of the shoulder bridge, next levels 3 and 4 are exactly the same as those precursor levels, so that's where we're going to start from our Pilates rest position on your back with your knees bent. Now with shoulder bridges which will bring one leg off the floor, there's obvious points of consideration. You don't want to be doing that sort of movement if there's any unilateral pathology in the hip, or there's recent pelvic girdle pathologies or pain. So it's not going to be suitable for everyone. And if you can't perform the shoulder bridge level 2, you don't want to be giving this a go. That's fairly self-explanatory. Just like any other exercise, if you notice or feel any discomforts that you wouldn't expect, then give this a miss and seek advice where appropriate. That said, we're going to go up into our shoulder bridge position. These levels do rely on reasonable hamstring length, so some people prefer to do hamstring stretches before they start this. I'll leave that up to you, but you'll probably see why in a moment. So from your start position for the shoulder bridge, we come up into our bridge. Now you can either do that in your articulating shoulder bridge, one joint coming up at a time, or you can come up in your neutral spinal bridge. The hands, the wider they are, the more base of support they're going to offer. So there is that flexibility available to you when you're performing this. Probably no wider than that if you're going to be adhering to kind of probably the textbook way of doing it. And then from here, just like our shoulder bridge level 2, we bring one heel and foot off the floor and we come up into tabletop. Now the differentiating factor for the next levels is from there we straighten that gesture leg. Once you're in that start position, we can add in a leg sweep. So without sacrificing your bridge position, that leg comes down only as far as you can while maintaining a neutral spine and your bridge, and then come back up into tabletop and then lowering all the way down. So there is an example of one repetition of the level 3. The level 4 is essentially the same, and there's considerable variation going on here, and the lines are a little bit blurred in terms of where one level starts and one level finishes. From this position, we come up again, and it's really just a case of how many leg sweeps are we doing? And the more leg sweeps you do, the higher the level essentially. Now there's a few things which immediately you become aware of when you're doing that exercise. One is the amount of work that the remaining leg is doing, and you're chiefly going to feel that in your hamstrings. So make sure that you're never feeling excessive strain in the back compartment of the thigh, that hamstring compartment, with the leg that is remaining on the floor. The next thing is the control and also the height to which that leg moves, the gesture leg. It's very, very easy, given the control that's necessary and the weight of the leg, to overshoot the leg and then either rotate the pelvis down or hyperextend the low back to arch. As that leg is coming down, the pelvis will rotate forwards because of the pull of those hip flexor muscles. So when you're dropping, we don't want any popping up of that stomach or feeling of compression in the back while maintaining that neutral pelvic position. So not many people are going to get too close to the floor here because of that lack of hip extension which humans naturally have. There may be some people who are super flexible who will be able to accomplish that, but the majority won't be anywhere near that. So when you're doing that leg sweep, that's got to be the main focus in your mind. Not having compression or discomfort in the back and making sure you stay level. So if you're able to take your hands off the floor, it's quite a nice technique to bring your fingertips up onto the front of the pelvis here, onto those bony prominences. And as you're doing your leg sweeps, those bony prominences shouldn't move, they should stay nice and level. Try and keep your knees straight if you can. And when you come up, if you don't have the flexibility, then just maybe back off a little bit, and you could do your leg sweeps in a position where there's not quite as much hamstring length needed. You don't have to come all the way up. The final variation, and this is a variation I've shown the advanced Pilates course that I've published online, is to add in even more work for this remaining leg. And this is a nice exercise to do, but it really will hit the spot for that single leg strengthening. This time, as we lower the leg, we're going to simultaneously lower our bridge as well. So we come up into our start, and we're aiming to have the heel hit the floor at the same time as the back of our pelvis. So we're lowering down, our bridge is lowering, and then those 2 points hit simultaneously, and then we push back up in our single leg bridge with the gesture leg lifting the moment we initiate that lift. So we're basically just reversing what we've just done. Lowering down, the pelvis must stay level here. We don't want it banking to the side. Exhaling as you make your lift. Inhaling as you lower down is one potential breathing pattern. And if, like me, you've just timed it slightly badly there, my posterior pelvis hit the floor slightly before my foot on that rep, just make the correction next time. Maybe lower down a little bit swifter, so that you then get that correction. The final variation, if you're really looking to get some higher advanced level stability, would be to take the arms off the floor. So as you're performing any of those bridging movements, particularly this last one, you could come up into an overhead reach, making sure you stay neutral through your spine. And that is a really great challenge, both in terms of keeping the gesture leg still, but also preventing the remaining leg wobbling side to side. So there's some nice variations essentially on the classical shoulder bridge, but as with the modified Pilates program, we're aiming to maintain that neutral spinal position and make sure that you're not feeling undue strain in that area. It's going to take a lot of strength to get to those latter levels. As per usual, progress through the levels accordingly, and if you are following those guidelines and making sure you're not pushing through any of that unwanted discomfort that could happen if your technique is suspect, you'll progress gradually to get to those levels. So yeah, shoulder bridge, always a great exercise, but the jumps up in difficulty between levels are quite stark. So that's why with the shoulder bridges, I always would really urge people to make sure that you're not cheating in any way, not skipping any steps, and making sure you're really rock solid on one level before moving on to the next.